What is up, everybody? Thanks for checking out Hunt, Shoot, Live. Got a very different episode for you today. If you own a gun, period, not that if you're into hunting or if you're into if you own a gun, I really encourage you to listen to this episode today because we are going to talk about several different pieces of legislation that are coming down, not just in the state of Virginia where we are, but we're going to talk about some federal stuff that's on the line. So if you own a gun, spend just a little bit of time with us. I got Brandon, the man, Buskell with me today, Hunt, Shoot, Live team member. We're going to spend a little bit of time processing some different legislation that's coming down the pike. And Brandon is extremely intelligent, and this is something that he and I talk about a lot, and his knowledge is much deeper than mine. But I felt like this was something that's needed to happen right now just because of the shift and the turmoil that's going on in the nation right now. And, you know, it's really not about Republican versus Democrat. It's what makes sense and when should we stand up and fight, in the gun community. And I think this is one of those times. I really think that if we sit back and we just let go and let things happen, then we're beginning to see that slow. It's kind of like the frog in the water thing. You know, you can't throw, if you throw a frog into boiling water, he's going to jump out.
Right.
But if you slowly turn that heat on, you'll kill him. And I feel like that's what's going on in the country right now.
Well, a really good indicator is in this, whenever the Democrats were sorting through the last presidential potential candidates, in the past, if you had a really strong lean towards aggressive gun control items like confiscations, like if you said, I want to confiscate AR-15s and the like, that was really going to hurt you. Now, everybody in the field was saying it. So it is now, it has gone from being something that could hurt your hopes of attaining these really high offices to now being really a basic necessity almost. I mean, you need to have that position. If you're a centrist on guns, most of the field on the left is really going to jump onto you quite a bit now. But I found that everyone had what I would call an extremist position,
And that's unfortunate because I think that you get away from truth when the people who are sitting in the offices that have to make these laws and make the rules that we adhere to, when truth is not the guide, and what actually is the guide is the overwhelming majority of the philosophy of the side that you're adhering to, and you have to sway to that, or you're not accepted. Like, that takes away whether it's and we are. There is far right and there is far left, and there seems to be no middle. And we're losing a lot of truth there in that. And gun control is absolutely one of those things. Well, let's dig in. And if it's all right, Brandon, let's start with some of the federal stuff. There's some stuff going on here or some of the national stuff. Some of the things that's going on in the state of Virginia, we'll get to some of that here in just a minute. But on a national level, and I will say, I think that I sure hope that some of this is not going to end up going through. I think it's a big stretch, but if you're not aware, I'm sharing this with you so that you know things that are being proposed and things that could happen.
Prepare to be surprised.
Yeah,
I was surprised.
Crazy.
I was surprised.
Crazy. So HR 127. So this has been proposed. This is at a national level. It's been proposed at Congress. HR 127, and it's a pretty comprehensive bill that covers every single person in the United States. If you have a gun, I don't care if you. Let's say you don't like hunting and you don't like shooting, and you've got Papa's old Winchester hid in the closet. This applies to you.
Yes.
If this goes through, this applies to every single person who has a gun in their house. So the first big thing about HR 127 is that it will make a requirement. If you've got a gun in your house and you do not register it, so a federal firearm registry has been proposed. If you have a gun in your house and you don't register it federally, then you are going to be a convicted felon if you were ever caught with that gun in your possession, or if for some reason your home was ever searched, God forbid, and they find it and it's not federally registered, you're going to be a felon. If you've got Papa's old gun hidden in the closet and somebody breaks into your home with malicious intent and you have to protect yourself with that weapon, you're going to be charged because you didn't have it registered. So a federal firearms registry. Now, Brandon, how is that? Explain just a little bit how a federal firearms registry is different from what we already have to do when somebody buys a gun from a store, and there's the background check and that kind of thing.
Okay, so a lot of people, especially in the state of Virginia, I hear people say my guns are registered. Well, there is no registry in the state of Virginia, and of course there's not one in the United States. Some states, if I'm not mistaken, do have formal registries, at least for certain classes of guns. I think there's some northeastern states you have to let them know, hey, I own an AR-15 or the like. But here in Virginia, and Virginia's like a lot of states, when you buy a gun and you go through the NICS system, the background check system, if that purchase is approved, then that paperwork has a very, very short lifespan. It is not kept or maintained. It is destroyed. And the reason it is destroyed is because when that was passed, and I believe, if I'm not mistaken, that's part of the Brady Firearms Act, when Ronald Reagan got shot. Brady is one of the people who also shot, and from that, a lot of gun control schemes have sprung from that encounter that day on the street. But if they were to maintain that, then that is an informal registry, and registries always lead towards confiscations.
Yeah.
A registry can't make you safer. It can only tell the government where the guns are. It doesn't prevent you from doing anything with the gun. So a registry, if anybody tries to sell you the idea like, oh, we're just doing it for your own safety. Well, how does that make me safer for you to know exactly what I personally have? Because if I want to do something bad with my guns, whether you know about them or not, I can still do it. So it can't actually make you safer. Now, when you go through that background check system, if you are denied, then now that paperwork is kept indefinitely. If you were denied and it's a mistake, and let's say within a month or so you get it worked out, or within a few days you get it worked out, once again, it's destroyed. But so the only thing they actually keep are the denials. And I believe I read a statistic not long ago that out of about 300 million background checks, only about 1.5 million had been denied. So it goes to show you, just a fraction of a percentage get denied.
Yeah.
Most people out there buying guns at gun stores are good people.
Yeah.
They're not getting denied. And out of those denials, of course, a lot of those get reversed, so really it's even less.
Yeah.
But now a registry is something different. You are letting the government not only know the new guns you buy, it's all the guns you have. So if Virginia was to have one magically tomorrow, I would have to go to my gun safe, count which guns I have, tell
which
what
he
they
doesn't
are,
have. He
serial
doesn't have
numbers.
any guns.
I don't actually own
He
any
doesn't
guns.
own guns, and I don't own guns
Right.
either.
I used to own a BB gun. That's what I got this moose with. I got rid of it though. But no, a registry, you are going to let them know every gun you have, down to the serial
Grandpa's
number.
old Winchester that I was talking about.
Right, it
You're going to
doesn't
have to
matter.
go dig that out of the closet,
Right.
and give them all the information they need and register that firearm.
Right.
And now they know.
Now
where
they
it is.
know. And so now they have that. And so they can do whatever they want with that in the future. If the political winds change, they know where to go. If you look at other places, this has happened in Australia, in Canada, in Britain. A registry is just the first step towards a confiscation. And that's why, and in a sense, universal background checks, I know we're kind of jumping subjects here, but universal background checks are related to that in that on the surface that sounds like a great idea. Oh yeah, well, if somebody's going to buy a gun, let's do a check. Well, that sounds good, but in reality, there's no real teeth to a proper check. So if I sell you a gun and we do a background check, that's great and all, but it's not recorded. If the transaction goes through, that information can't be used to promote public safety in any way. So what's the real use, really? A lot of people, and I'm inclined to agree, I think that when you want universal background checks, your actual hope is in the future when those background checks don't actually stop any crimes. You're looking at the statistics like, wow, crime hasn't dropped any. That's going to give you fuel to move to the next step. But the background checks didn't work. Maybe we better register these things, because the registry is kind of a hard sell. The background checks are not a very hard sell. I've heard many a person say, well, I don't really have anything to hide. I don't mind somebody checking this or that. So I think those two are related in that way.
And it's the water getting hot with the frog in it. It's that. And you mentioned it, and Australia was a good one, and I think that's probably one of the more recent ones as far as gun buybacks or confiscations. I'm not sure how that went. I don't recall. I just remember seeing the pictures of truckloads full of guns.
Truckloads of guns.
People's guns just loaded in the backs of these big trucks that were being hauled off.
Oh, it makes you sick.
It's so funny how. And we're really bad for this in the United States right now, unfortunately, that we do not allow history to inform our current decision-making. And individuals, whether I don't care which side of the political aisle that you're on, if you think that, well, we're going to do it differently, it's different this time, I'm sorry, that is not what rational thought process and historical observation tells you. And it's not like these things have just happened in one place. This stuff has happened over and over again throughout history. When small steps are taken, it's always they give an inch, they take a mile kind of thing. That's the way it goes.
Yeah.
You get this, well, you got your foot in the door a little bit, and then we do this the next time, and it's in there a little bit more, and that's just the way it goes. It's just the way it goes. And I think the bigger point here is, and we are jumping ahead a little bit, but you mentioned it, and it's so relevant. This stuff just does not get at the heart of the problem. If you've got an individual who has a severe mental illness, or and I know even I'm a licensed professional counselor by trade, so this is what I spend my days on is working with individuals with mental health and behavioral health related issues, and some colleagues in the field get mad when you mention gun control and mental health, and there's a difference between somebody that kills somebody, and that's there's a lot of argument can be had there, but I would like for you to tell me, for real, think about it, regardless of how you feel about that, mental health and the gun control thing, how is taking guns away, unless you can take them all away. Now, if you can take every single gun away, sure, you might solve the problem. That will work.
That will work if you can take them all away.
You can't do it. Even in the countries that have tried, people have guns, and in those situations, it's the wrong people that have the guns. The people who don't care, the people who are mentally ill, the psychopaths, and the narcissist with massive anger problem, whatever the problem, they're the ones that will get a gun. And I'll say this over and above that, this is more for more fuel to the argument of it's not a gun issue, it's a heart issue. If somebody decides they want to kill people and there's not a gun available, they will kill somebody with whatever they are able to kill them with, whether it be a baseball bat, a car, a homemade bomb, setting their house on fire at night while they're asleep. Yep. So when I think we're trying to treat the Federal Firearm Registry, you're trying to treat a problem. I hate to say a Band-Aid on a bullet wound. I don't guess that's appropriate, the subject matter, but it is. That's a Band-Aid on a bullet wound. It's ignoring the elephant in the room is probably the more appropriate way, I guess, to say it for this conversation.
Right.
A gun registry, man, you're ignoring the problem. Let's get more legislation. Let's get more money and more financial assistance to mental health services. Let's do more intervention on a local level. Let's get more money to inner cities or these areas that have bad gang problems and high levels of violent crime. Even if it's not violent crime, domestic violence, let's pour our resources and time into that and treat the problem and treat the heart of the matter instead of treating one of the things that some of those people use to hurt other people whenever it all does go wrong.
Right.
But that's the first step. Now, this is the federal deal. Moving on, a federal licensing system. So not only do you have to register every single one of your guns, and again, this is HR 127. This is HR 127. All of this has been proposed already in Congress. The licensing system, it says, is going to cost $800. So if you want to own a gun, if you want to have a gun in your house, you're going to have to register it or any guns you have, and you're going to have to buy a federal license. It's going to be costing you $800.
Absolutely cost prohibitive. I mean, there are a lot of good guns out there that don't cost $800.
Yeah. So, and that's part of this too. Again, it's not getting the problem. It's hurting good people who should have access to something to protect themselves with. Even are we saying? This is very controversial. Are we saying that poor people shouldn't be allowed to protect themselves with a firearm? Because honestly, and as you see with this, we're going to there's psychological evaluations required and a lot of different hoops that you've got to jump through, license expirations and money. If you don't have the time and the financial resources, you're not going to do it. So then you're either going to be a felon or you're going to give your gun back.
Yes, I agree.
So you're not accomplishing the result of making people safer. You're accomplishing the result of getting guns away from people into government hands.
If I'm a bad guy and I want to have a gun to kill a person, threaten a person, rob a bank, rob a store, whatever my nefarious purpose is, I'm not going to worry a lot about whether I have a federal firearms license.
No.
You know what I mean? It's like, I really wanted to kill those people. I just don't have the firearms license.
Don't have that money. Don't have that $800 to buy that license, so I guess I can't kill those people.
Yeah, it's like a sign on a restaurant, no guns allowed. Well, man, I was going to go in there and rob that place, but they got a no guns allowed sign. I mean, that doesn't stop anybody except a legal gun. The one guy you don't have to worry about is who it stops.
It hurts the people who care and who are law-abiding citizens. Right. And then the ones that don't, which are the ones that you hope are going to follow that, they don't care. Right. They don't care.
Prime example.
They're going to do it anyway.
When I carry, which is often, I don't carry into the post office. You are not supposed to carry into the post office. So it comes out of my holster, it stays in the car. I conduct my business in the post office. I go back to my car, I put it back on my hip, and I go about my day. Now, I wasn't going to rob the post office, nor was I going to assault anyone.
But you're a law-abiding citizen.
Right. If I wanted to, though, the fact that they don't want the gun in there, that would never stop me or anyone else. It doesn't make any sense.
No, this is all, and I guess it would feel better if they just came out and said, hey, guys, listen, we want to take guns back. Our purpose is to try to get all the guns back. But to try to masquerade it like it's making everybody safer, I guess, is the most frustrating thing. And they, that's when we started this conversation. You mentioned you can't toe the middle because of truth. You have to have that pressure to fall either to the far right or to the far left, or you're not going to be successful politically. And this is one of those things. Like, people don't want to consider. A lot of lawmakers don't want to talk about the truth. They want to talk about the version of the truth that supports their agenda.
Well,
everything's muddied.
They hide their extreme positions with descriptors that sound reasonable. We just want this for your safety. This is a common sense law. Oh, this is common sense. This is what everyone wants. And then they throw out false statistics. Oh, you know what? We did a poll of gun owners, and 80% of gun owners, they want a registry. That's a lie. 8% of gun owners don't even want a registry, much less 80%. So, but here's the thing. These people play the long game.
Yeah.
If you keep calling it common sense long enough, the people that are in the middle, maybe they've got the old gun that grandpa left them in the closet, but they really don't use it. It's just there, and it's a family heirloom. And then you got people that don't own guns, but they're like, well, guns are okay, but I don't really care one way or the other. That's who they need to win. It's just a few more votes, a few more nods to the positive about these changes. So, but if you keep calling it common sense, eventually people will think it's common sense.
Yeah.
I mean, people like us.
If people don't fight back, and that's why that's one reason that we're having this conversation right now. I know that most of the people watching this video are going to agree with us 100%. Now, I hope that we've attracted some that aren't, and you're going to hear us out. But guys, if you are a gun owner and you agree with what we're saying, don't just let stuff happen. Call your local representatives. Let them just tell them, hey, I'm aware of HR 127, and I do not agree with that. Send an email. Let them know.
Yeah.
Fight back. Push back.
And friends of yours that are a little bit on the fence about guns, try to give them a reasonable argument as to why some of these gun control ideas are actually unreasonable, why these things are not fair, why these things are actually restricting our rights. Because like I said, maybe if you can change the mind of a few of those people, even if they're not big gun owners, maybe when it comes time to vote in the future, if they're like, wow, that guy's got a really extreme position on the Second Amendment, that's just enough to keep me from voting for that guy. That's a win. That's one less vote for one of these people that wants to really want to take the Second Amendment away. They would love to be able to scrub that away.
Yeah.
I just can't believe how, and I know we mentioned this earlier, but just the fact that everybody in the field to become the Democrat candidate for president, every one of them platformed on gun confiscation of some sort or another. And these people are idolizing the Australian form of gun control, which is confiscation. Yeah, it's unreal. I mean,
it's unfortunate. It's unfortunate that you truly can't. It's our nation is truly divided. Mm-hmm. It is absolutely divided, and it's scary. More reason there's Democratic power right now, and I really wanted to keep from throwing out sides, but if there's a majority power, and unfortunately right now the fact of the matter is the Democrats are the ones that are proposing this stuff and pushing for it. Mm-hmm. So it's unfortunate, but we got to push back. We can't just let this stuff happen. And if you're a Republican or if you're a gun supporter, or I'll say this: if you're a gun supporter but you're a Democrat and you're listening, man, consider what's going on. What he just said. The far left is what has become popular now, and these ideas for all out confiscation is what is being pushed. And man, we just can't let that happen.
I will say this though too: we keep talking the left. Do not think that the Republican Party necessarily has your best interests at heart. Case in point. Trump's first 2 years, we had the Congress. And why did we not have national concealed carry reciprocity? It was there. It got introduced actually just a few days ago from what I was reading the other day. Why now? The reason is now you can introduce it. There's no fear of it passing. So it looks good to your constituents. You can say, I support this and I support that. Wow. You introduced it at a time.
Politics.
You introduced it at a time when you knew that the votes were not there. Just to make you look good, you're getting your votes. You don't have to worry about it happening. And you know why? Because you don't want it.
Yeah.
So a lot of these people just tell us what we want to hear.
Absolutely.
Whether it's about guns or abortion or climate change or anything else. They're just telling you what you want to hear, because the more we pick at each other and the more we pick a position completely opposite that of the other aisle, as long as we're doing that, we're not seeing what they're really doing.
Yeah.
These people all go to the same cocktail parties and hang out at the same golf courses, and they're all friends. They're not enemies.
Yeah, we're so foolish for putting any career politician in. It's hilarious. I don't care if you are a Republican or Democrat. If you're a career politician, we should probably be considering somebody else.
You know what I would be willing to give up some gun rights for? Some term limits.
Oh, yeah.
And that's a totally no subject, and I'm sorry to go on a tangent, but it would be worth it. I would maybe give up some of my gun rights.
Well, here's just the truth that at some point it's going to tilt either way, right? Yeah. So either we do what it takes to change the system and do away with these term limits and get people in there who haven't been owned for the last, Republican or Democrat. Mm-hmm. If you've been in there for 20 and 30 years, I mean, my goodness, you've got connections that you're so muddy. You just can't keep your hands clean. So
there's no way.
If we don't fight this at some point, it's going to be bad.
Yeah.
Now's as good a time as ever. But so here's some more stuff for HR 127. So a federal firearm registry, a federal firearm license costing you $800. Mandatory. This is mandatory if you want a firearm and don't want to be a felon. You have to be 21 years old. Of course, you have to undergo the background check. Now, here's the kicker, too. Talking about equity and equality. Not only are you going to have to shell out $800 for your federal license, not only are you probably going to have to pay to register those firearms. I would imagine there's going to be some kind of a fee, even if it's $10 per firearm.
Well, to register a Class 3 arm, there's a $200
pretty hefty fee.
So, yeah.
So I'm sure there's going to be money there. You're going to have a psychological evaluation completed.
Unreal.
And again, guys, that's my field. That's what I'm involved in. Let me just tell you, that costs money, and it takes time. And even right now, when there's not millions of Americans trying to get a psych eval because they need a gun license, it takes you 2 or 3 months to get in to have an evaluation. It takes you another 2 months after that to even get your results back. So this is just ludicrous, and it's going to cost you money out of your pocket. Your insurance is not going to pay for it. So more money, and the poor man, the man that money is tight, he just can't do it.
He's not going to be able to afford it.
Can't do it.
Yeah.
You've got to successfully complete a training course, 24 hours worth of training. There's an antique firearms display license, and this was not very clear on what an antique firearm is. So like I was referring to Grandpa's old Winchester that you've got in the closet. Does that qualify? I don't know.
I would assume they'll pick an arbitrary date like 1950 or 1960 or 19 whatever, and they'll say any firearm manufactured prior to that date qualifies as antique firearm.
Yeah.
So the old blunderbuss or whatever.
And are you? I guess if that's the case, if you've got a pre-1950s gun, are you going to have the antique license, and you're also going to have the federal license for your non-antique guns? I don't know. This is speculation.
It sounds like a nightmare.
Absolutely.
I mean, because you have to factor in, too, we're not talking about a few guns, and we're not talking about a few gun owners. We're talking about millions of gun owners, and we're talking about hundreds of millions of guns.
Oh, yeah.
That is not an exaggeration. In the United States, there are hundreds of millions of guns.
Yeah.
Paperwork, disaster. I mean, I can't even imagine what they would. And the expense, unreal expense. We can always borrow money from China, I suppose, but unreal expense.
Creating 1 point whatever trillion for COVID, so I guess there's always money somewhere.
It's somewhere, I suppose.
Here's a good one. You guys will really like this one. HR 127, military style weapons license. So I can guarantee you that you're going to have to not only have your federal registry and your federal license, but much like those who want to have the suppressors on their weapons now have to have a federal permit that's separate from everything else. People who want to have that federal permit to have a fully automatic weapon and all that. This is going to be it. So if you own an AR-15, a semi-automatic weapon, a military style weapon, and let me read to you some of the stuff that deems it as military style. Well, I'll say this first. So it's more money. It's an additional fee. It's another 24 hours of training, and specifically live fire training with this. As part of your psych evaluation for this, they have to interview your spouse, of that individual, any former spouse of the individual, and at least 2 other people who are members of the family or an associate of the individual to further determine the state of mental, emotional, relational stability. That's crazy. I mean, it's ludicrous. It's ludicrous. But this has been proposed, guys. Okay, so that's how serious it is. I don't think it's going to go through. But again, that's a little bit of a boot in the door. Trying to get in and hack away a little bit at a time.
Well, and another way to look at it too, when you propose extreme positions, sometimes it makes it easier to sneak in or not so extreme positions. It's you keep telling the public. Let's just say you start. We want to register all guns, and we want a permit for everyone. Saying, well. Okay, we'll compromise. We'll just register the assault weapons and the semi-auto handguns. And then a few people would say, oh, boy, I'm glad you backed off a little bit. Yeah, we'll go with that.
That bill's not as bad as that HR 127 they did last year.
Yeah.
So in regard to the military-style weapon, let me tell you how they're defining a military-style weapon. So they actually list a bunch of different names of military weapons. Norinco, Mitchell, Polytechnologies, Action Arms, Israeli Military Industries, which would be Uzi, Beretta, AR-70, Colt, AR-15, etc., etc. So they literally name them, but they get you. You're caught regardless. Listen, and it catches a whole bunch of other stuff too. So listen how crazy this is. A semi-automatic rifle. So now this is other things that qualify as a military-style weapon. A semi-automatic rifle that has an ability to accept a detachable magazine, and it has at least 2 of the following. A folding or a telescopic stock, a pistol grip that protrudes conspicuously beneath the action of the weapon. So now both of those I highlighted because that's a lot of stuff. Obviously, all of your AR-15s, unless you've got the fixed stock, they're going to get you... if you've got a muzzle loader with a pistol grip, or if you've got a shotgun with a pistol grip, boom, they got you right there. Of course, a bayonet mount counts in that. A flash suppressor or threaded barrel designed to accommodate a flash suppressor. So this is going to get you with again, if the fold and stock thing didn't get you, having a threaded muzzle on the end is going to get you that.
I've never understood the demonization of the flash suppressor.
Yeah, what's wrong with it?
I can't even imagine. I mean, to be honest with you, it doesn't suppress the flash that much. But even if it did, I can't really imagine how many people are hiding in a dark forest shooting with a hidden muzzle flash. Well, I mean, I can see a military application. I mean, military concern. I want to hide my muzzle flash so snipers and the enemy don't see me. But as far as the
safety
ability,
issues.
I won't be able to rob a bank any better with a flash hider. No. I won't be able to rob a home any better with a flash hider. Like that is just baffles. It's always baffled me. I don't understand why a flash hider.
Well, any type of muzzle device, even if you have a suppressor on the end of your gun, if you've shot a suppressed weapon, and I've shot many suppressed weapons, if you don't have subsonic ammo, you still need hearing protection.
Yeah, they're not as suppressed as you think they are.
No, it's not like they show it on movies. And I will say, even with subsonic ammo with the suppressor, you can probably shoot it without really ringing your bell, but it's probably not a very good idea to not have ear protection. Like, you still really should have ear protection even when you have a suppressor.
I still remember the first time I shot a 5.56 with a suppressor. The first shot, I thought, oh, wow. That really is quieter, and it was quieter. About 5 shots after that, I said, I'm gonna put these earmuffs back on. I mean, that was definitely uncomfortable. I was expecting something different. I mean, I wasn't expecting it to sound like a puff noise like on James Bond, but I was expecting to be able to shoot a box of ammo and still hear the same. That was not the case. My head was ringing.
It would be like me punching you in the face with my bare fist, or punching you in the face with a 16-ounce glove on.
Yeah, it's pretty
It's still getting punched in the face, and it's not cool.
I agree.
But it's better with... So again, yes, like you said, what the crap is the point of that? That doesn't help in safety at all. It's useless. But if you've got a threaded barrel on the end of your rifle, that's one of the 2 qualifications for a military-style weapon. Now, here's where they get your pistols. It's much of the same thing. A semi-automatic pistol that has the ability to accept a detachable magazine and 2 of the following: ammunition magazine that attaches to the pistol outside of the pistol grip, the threaded barrel. So if you've got a threaded barrel on your pistol, you've probably got a military weapon. A shroud that is attached to or partially or completely encircles the barrel that permits the shooter to hold the firearm with the non-trigger hand without being burned. And again, now, so this is going to get all your modern AR pistols, the AR Saint, the Springfield Saint's real popular right now. Daniel Defense got a really popular pistol AR platform. Having that on, how does that make that dangerous? There is nothing, again, the purpose of that, it's cosmetic and it's stuff so that they can cause more loopholes for people to have to jump through to make it lesser, to make these firearms be in less people's hands. That's just all there is to it. And unfortunately, as we've already said multiple times, it's gonna be in the people's hands that don't need it anyway. So you're just making it harder on the good guy. And for a shotgun, it's the same thing. Same criteria for a shotgun, except the shotgun, the fixed magazine capacity cannot exceed 5 rounds. And the ability to accept a detachable magazine is one of the qualifiers for that. So if you have a shotgun that accepts a detachable magazine, you have a military-style weapon, and you're going to need a different license.
It's just a lot of licenses.
Lots of licenses.
It's a lot of red tape.
HR 127. And there's some other stuff in there. Some caliber restrictions. They'd make 50 caliber or greater illegal.
I did notice that. It wasn't... I was almost expecting it to say greater than 50 caliber will be either. So, I mean, 50 caliber or greater. Obviously, it's getting your 50 BMG. But it's getting your 500 Smith.
Yeah, what about your muzzleloader?
Yeah.
I mean, technically, I guess that bullet is 45. Anyway, lots of...
It's a 50 caliber bore. Though.
It is.
Put a 50 caliber bullet
so
in.
Lots of HR 127 is just junk. So call your congressional representative and push back on that one.
I do not feel that has much of a chance. I still think there should be. I think you should still push back.
Absolutely.
You should contact your people and tell them vote against that. That is if it ever comes up to the floor for a full vote. This is probably one of those things that's going to die in a committee somewhere. It probably won't actually make it to the floor for a full vote, in my opinion. Or if it does, it will be
Well, what happens
butchered.
with that is what you mentioned earlier. They propose this crazy junk, and then, well, okay, let me tone that down.
And then try to get acceptance. I agree. Yeah, you go for it. You just go for everything, but you're going for 10 yards, but if you get just a few yards, hey, it's part of the game. It's the long game. They're playing the long game, trying to sneak these things in there.
Yeah.
But also, like I said, I think the most dangerous thing they do is the language they tag onto this stuff. Mm-hmm. This is common sense. This is for your safety. This is for our children's safety. This will make us a more modern society. Things like that.
Yeah.
I think they keep saying that, and
Smoke
eventually
and mirrors.
It takes hold.
Yeah. So push back. Now let's talk about if you don't live in Virginia, you might trail off here, but I guess I would encourage you to listen to some of this and then check in and see what's going on in your state. So even though these bills that we're about to read here are specifically in the state of Virginia, this is some stuff that probably has a really good daggone chance of happening and going through the whole
I think stuff
process.
like this is proposed in every state. It's just that some states it's more apt to occur. Wyoming, Idaho, some of this is probably not going to happen.
Right.
Virginia is a left-leaning state. I hate to say that; it makes me kind of sick to say it, but it is a left-leaning state. This and up that northeastern corridor, things like this are pretty popular.
Yeah. So if nothing else, just listen and then go and check and see what's going on in your particular state right now. So let's dig into some of this stuff that's going on in Virginia. So. House Bill 2128 allows for a 5-business-day delay to be imposed on firearm transfers. Now, currently, Brandon, it's a 3-day.
3-day.
Do you see any holes in that? Any problems with the 5-day?
I have to admit, something like this on the surface is a little hard to argue against, but it's a little hard to argue for as well. I mean, I don't mind giving the feds enough time to conduct my background check. But how much time do you give them? If we're going to give them 5 days, well, why not 6?
Why not 6? Why not 10?
I mean, there has to be a limit somewhere. I mean, Do I think five's the end of the world? No, I don't think five's the end of the world. I don't know that it's much better than 3. I mean, to be honest with you, most background checks we've had have been done in 10 minutes. Unless it's around the holidays, maybe it's an hour. But I would have a hard time voting for that. I'm a little wishy-washy on that one, first.
I think as I was reading some about this, I believe there's been some instances that, because what happens, it is possible for your background check to not be completed even after that current 3-day limit. So what happens then legally is, even if the state police hasn't got back to that gun dealer, after 3 days, he can legally release that firearm to that individual, even though that background check is not back yet. So they're trying to argue that maybe there's not enough help and they can't handle it. So if you give them a couple more days.
I think the only way to really determine if that's a good idea or not, number one, I would like to see how many times that's happened in the last year or the last 2 years. Are we talking about this has happened to 5 people? Has this happened to 500 people?
Right.
And out of those people, did any of those people go on to commit crimes?
Yeah.
Can we find a correlation between, like, hey, odds are if you let somebody have this gun after 3 days or whatever the wait period is, half these people went on to commit crimes with these guns. I'm
well,
sure.
And the point of our whole discussion, is this because we are trying to frustrate gun owners, or is this because we want to make things safer? So that's a good point. Go back and look at data. Go back and look at data.
That is to frustrate gun owners. Now I'm against it. I was wishy-washy before. I forgot.
Unless they have the data.
I forgot my own standard.
So you hear that out there.
Yes, I forgot my own standard.
You governing officials, show us the data.
Is it truly, can we prove that it's for safety? Because if it's not, it's just to frustrate legal gun owners. Yeah. You're right.
Now, here's one that's definitely going to frustrate legal gun owners. Probably not everybody, because it's not going to affect everybody, but it is absolutely going to affect thousands of people across the state of Virginia, no doubt. House Bill 2276 essentially ends the practice of manufacturing firearms for yourself. Now, that's not going to make sense to some people, but for anybody who has ever built their own AR-15, you get online, you go to your favorite arms store that has all kinds of AR components, and you order the whole hodgepodge, and you get it sent to you. Well, guess what? Now this is legit stuff that probably is going to go through for the state of Virginia. That gun that you have put together, that you have self-built, or if you're a person that has a CNC machine and you even crank out your own lowers for your AR-15s, those are all going to be illegal. There's a huge chance that those are going to be illegal.
No grandfathering those. No time period to
Class
turn those
5
in.
felony.
Boom. It is
Class
instant
5
when
felony.
it passes. You know what? They're going to sell this to the average Joe by saying, well, we're keeping people from building assault weapons. And I do know that these 80% lowers and whatnot have become kind of popular. But think about the thousands of people who have built their own black powder gun. How many of those Hawken kits have people received, for Christmas and for birthdays and things? I mean, there are tons of those things everywhere.
And here's where it catches you if you're one of those people. So it prohibits individuals from possessing firearms that do not have firearms. You cannot possess a firearm that does not have a serial number issued by a federal firearms importer or federal firearms manufacturer, which is in compliance with all federal laws and regulations. So that old Hawken, nope.
It's unreal. I mean, and to be honest with you, if you're the kind of guy, and I'll be honest with you, I don't really know any of these guys, but if you're the kind of guy who's going to take a piece of oak and carve a stock, and he's going to take a solid piece of steel and put it on a lathe and make a barrel and actually truly make a gun from the most basic components.
Dude ain't wanting to go out and kill a bunch of people.
Not going to rob a bank.
No.
Number one, that guy's a master artist. Probably. I want to see what he does. But nobody has to worry about that guy. Nobody is. I mean, you don't have to worry about that guy.
No. Well, as we said about the previous one, which ones of these are just to piss off gun owners, and which ones are the ones that are truly going to contribute to the safety of our community? That is not one that is going to contribute to the safety of the community. These people that are committing these crimes, and that's data that we can access. That data. Show me. Tell me what firearms were used in these mass shootings. Now, maybe it was an AR-15. I bet you it wasn't one that the dude threw together because he's a hobbyist.
Well, and also, too, when you look at firearm fatality statistics, we've already said that 2/3 are suicides. A huge percentage is going to be inner city crime, criminal on criminal type crime. When it comes to fatalities related to long guns, and that includes not only your ARs, your AKs, we're going to throw in shotguns, your deer rifle, and all this stuff. It only numbers in the hundreds nationwide. It's not even in the thousands. It's in the hundreds. It's not a very big number. When you consider there are over 300 million guns in the hands of American citizens. I mean, it's
gun hatred.
Number.
It is gun hatred that fuels a lot of this.
Yeah.
Because the top 10, I looked at this earlier today, all across the United States, state by state, you can literally go to the CDC's website and see the top 10 causes of death in this country, state by state. And I could not find firearm death, violent firearm-related incidents is not in the top 10. Now, suicide does make it into the top 10 lists of some states. It does. And, of course, again, we're back to a mental health issue there. But as far as the lobbyists right now are pressing guns are bad, guns are killing people, if you are really concerned, I think you're not concerned about the health of the nation, you're just mad at guns. If you're concerned about the health of the nation, heart disease was the number one over and over and over again. Heart disease and cancer. Can't always do a lot about cancer, but now heart disease, man, we can do something about that. But we don't want to. We don't want to talk about that, even though it is it's either the number one or the number two, depending on which state. So, again, it's hating on gun owners. It is not helping the problem. HB 1909 would allow a school board to ban guns on its property. Personally, I don't know that that's too. That's not a bad deal.
I don't think that's bad.
Law enforcement officers and qualified retired law enforcement officers would be exempt, so they could.
The way it is right now, I can go to the school up the road. I cannot carry my gun into the ball game or into the school, but it can be locked up in my car. I don't personally see anything wrong with that. I would like to see that caveat in there. When you say not on the property at all,
property.
Yeah, that means I cannot drive onto the property with my deer rifle safely cased in the back because I'm going to go hunting after I pick up my daughter. We're going to go head straight to the woods. I don't really see a problem with it remaining in my car. I don't see a problem with that.
Yeah. And hey, this is another one that people could research. How many instances of gun violence happen because somebody had a gun sitting in their vehicle all day long?
Right.
That's probably not very likely. The dude drove up to the school, knew what he was going to do, got out with the gun, and he went and did it. It's not.
Until proven otherwise, I would say there has never been an instance. You would have to prove to me there has been. There has never been an instance where an individual drove to a school, had a gun tucked away in their car. A person picked that car, broke into it, said, "Hallelujah, there's a gun," and then went and did something with it.
Yeah,
I'm going to say that's never happened. I might be wrong, but I'm going to say that's never happened.
Yeah. Yeah. So again, I mean, that's tough too, because if we're arguing it from the point, does this help? Does this contribute to safety at all, or is it just an annoyance to gun owners? That kind of seems more like it's just an annoyance to gun owners as opposed to helping.
Yeah, I mean, if you're going to restrict on my rights, you're going to have to prove to me, hey, there is a problem. We have measured the problem. These are the incidents. This is how many times they are occurring. Here's what we are proposing to reduce these incidents. I don't think there's any incidents.
Yeah.
From having a gun in your car.
So again, that's I guess even I think that's an example of one that feels really innocent.
It does,
but that's
it
just
actually
another.
Help anything.
It didn't.
Now
help
it will
nothing.
Absolutely make a criminal out of the guy that forgets and he's got his pistol, his .38 in his glove box.
Or so in our neck of the woods.
So you are creating a criminal
opportunity.
class.
Yeah.
I'm not so sure you're preventing any crimes, but you are creating a criminal class.
Or in our neck of the woods, it definitely wouldn't be, or in my day going to school anyway, it was not uncommon to get up and go squirrel hunting before you went to school.
Well, I've seen guns in the back.
Then you go to your school and you went squirrel hunting that morning, So, gosh.
I mean, at the times they are changing. I'm not so sure I want students to be able to show up with guns. As a matter of fact, I'm going to say no, I don't want students in this day and age to have a gun in their car locked up. I don't want that. But if their mother or father is going to go through the pickup line and get them, or if they're, they've got to go in and speak to the principal and they want to leave their .38 locked up in their car and their dash, I do not have any problem with that whatsoever.
Well, maybe the heart behind that one is what you were just saying about the kids having it, which I guess it could just be wording that would differentiate. Students are not allowed to have on property. However, if you're a concealed weapons holder and you have one in your car,
right?
I guess there could always be wording that could make it permissible. So, HB 1909, not exceedingly controversial. HB 1992 would prohibit possession, transportation, or purchase of firearms by anyone convicted of assault and battery and of a family member or household member.
But those are misdemeanor assaults, correct?
That would not be a felony assault, and it would have to, because already if you have a felony, you can't have a firearm. So
right.
I mean, it would have to be misdemeanors, I would imagine.
The only thing that I've read about that one is there is no provision for regaining your right to have a firearm after that conviction. Right now, if you have a felony conviction, a domestic violence felony conviction, there is the possibility, there is the avenue there that a judge can restore your rights. But supposedly with this one, that avenue does not exist as written. So in other words, if I don't have a brother, but if I had a brother and we got into a fight in the front yard over here and the neighbor calls the cops and they charge us and we're convicted with beating the heck out of each other, well, all of a sudden we can't have our guns. It is a misdemeanor domestic. So I can't get on board with that one.
Yeah.
Everything's not, people read that and the first thing they think of is some, horrendous man beating a woman down in the kitchen somewhere, and that is grotesque. And that guy really should not have a gun. But that's really not what all that encompasses. That encompasses more than what I think people realize.
Yeah, misdemeanor in situations. So finally, this is the final one right here. House Bill 2295 bans firearms from Capitol Square in any building or parking facility owned or leased by the Commonwealth.
I think I'm directly responsible in part for that because I did march on Richmond in 2020 along with 20,000 of my closest friends to let them know that we were pissed off about what they were proposing. And some of the worst bills they had did get kicked out.
Yeah.
So the other ones didn't.
Yeah.
And
now we're talking about it again a year later. They will keep hitting with this stuff. Keep hitting.
Yeah.
And if there aren't people to push back, then it's absolutely going to go through.
And we were discussing this earlier. A prime example of pushback. Number one, I think all of us showing up in the Capitol that day in Richmond to protest these gun control ideas, I think that had an effect on some of the legislators. I really do. Another example, more current, what is today? February 2nd, 2021. In California this year, it had been proposed to ban all forms of bear hunting. So if you go back, I'm not sure how long, a couple of decades ago, they did away with mountain lion hunting. And a lot of people have regretted that ever since. They really didn't fight for it that much. It was a fringe group of guys. How many people chase mountain lions? It's not that many guys. Now, though, they see what happened there. Now, when they proposed this bear hunting ban, tens of thousands of people called their representatives, and the guy that proposed that bill, he pulled it back and said that due to overwhelming public displeasure with that idea, he's pulling it. It worked.
Yeah.
That's just your everyday guy calling and saying, hey, man, I like bear hunting. I like the idea that I might want to go bear. There are a lot of bears in California.
So your voice matters.
The small guy won. Yeah.
Your voice matters, and that's the whole purpose of this episode of Hunt, Shoot, Live today, was to bring some awareness to some of the stuff going on and to encourage you and to remind you your voice matters. I'm going to pop up some of the numbers for those watching my video. For Virginia, I'll have those numbers. If you're not in Virginia, then reach out. Just get online. It's super easy. Look up the number for your House representative or your Senate representative, and give them a call. I did that this week for my area. I called my House delegate, and I called also the congressional representative, and got to voice my opinion. I left a message with their secretaries, and they also told me to send an email. So I sent an email too. And I asked them, and this goes off what Brandon just said, man, it matters. I asked her, I said, does it matter if I tell other people, is it a good thing for us to just call? Like, are y'all keeping track of that? And she said, yes, we have to turn in the number of individuals that contact us regarding a specific issue. So they are watching. It does matter.
They know how
there is a point to it. So do it. Reach out, and let your voice be heard, because we've got to stand up for what we believe in. Appreciate you guys for checking out Hunt, Shoot, Live. Be sure to subscribe to our channel. Check us out every week. God bless you. We'll see you next time.